So what I'm going to make today is a chocolate peanut butter egg, kind of like a Reese's cup egg. So I'm just going to make kind of my variation of it. So what I've got is a cup of peanut butter, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, 3/4 cup of powdered sugar, a tablespoon and a half of lightly packed brown sugar. I'm going to use a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla, and a 1/4 cup of finely ground up graham crackers. Get these out of the way. I'm going to start off putting in the peanut butter. And I wouldn't use like natural peanut butter or the peanut butter with the oil on top that you got to stir for this. I would just use regular old creamy peanut butter. Let's see. Go ahead and add brown sugar, butter, go ahead and add the salt. A little bit of vanilla. It'll just give it a little hint of vanilla flavor. I tried this recipe and I thought it was pretty good in there, so I decided to keep it. Switch over and use a fork and just start to get this incorporated together. From what I've read, it's easiest to mix up the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients separately. And from what I've found, I found that to be kind of true. So I usually do the wet first and then add the dry. And it kind of mixes together a little quicker and a little bit more easily. Alright, so this is our mixture of peanut butter, vanilla butter, salt, and that's it. That's the mixture we've got so far. That's the wet mixture. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the breadcrumbs. I like the breadcrumbs in this because it adds like they're finely crushed up, but it adds just a little texture to it, and it kind of reminds me of that little bit of texture, that little very slightly crunchy, nutty texture you get when you bite into a Reese's cup. So I like the breadcrumbs in here. And the way I did those, I'm going to add the powdered sugar as well. The way I did the breadcrumbs was I put them in a Ziploc bag and I took out the air. And I crushed them up a little bit on the counter with my fist. And then I took a glass cup and I started rolling it over the bag. And I did that back and forth, and I turned it over a few times as well and did that. And it seemed to crush them up really fine. You can do that if you don't. I didn't want to use a food processor or a blender and have to clean it, so I just did it by hand. But you could also use something else to crush it up if you want. God, these are good. Okay. Well, no, I'm not going to. This is fun. Oh yes, I am. I'm going to switch over. And this might be something fun to do with the kids or with your family or something over Easter, since we can't get out and hang out with everybody and celebrate. If you do celebrate with your family for Easter, this would be a cool little quick recipe to whip up and enjoy. Just kind of fold it over and make sure the breadcrumb and the powdered sugar gets evenly mixed in. You can also use a handheld mixer to do this if you want. It comes up pretty quick that way too, and it's not so thick that it'll clog it, but I don't know, this is a little bit thick, so if you have a good handheld mixture, that should do the job, but it is a little thick, so it might be a little difficult. Kind of bring it all together. Make sure everything is in there pretty even. Okay. And that is what it looks like. Looks pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start forming them into egg shapes. I'm going to try to do this one way, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to try another way. I don't know exactly how sticky this is going to be. Oh, it's not bad. I was going to put a little bit of vegetable oil on my hands. If you're trying to form something that's really sticky, I would put a little vegetable oil on your hands, and it'll help just keep everything from sticking to you. But this is not too sticky at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to form it into a ball, and then kind of thin it out at the top like an egg and leave it round on the bottom. Try to seal it up a little bit. And that's about what I came up with. So I'm going to continue to do these. I'm putting them on some on a wire cooling rack with some wax paper on top of it. I'm going to finish these up, and I'm going to put them in the freezer for about 20 minutes just to make sure they're hardened enough so when I dip them in the chocolate they don't fall apart. So once I'm finished with that, I will show you what it looks like when I start dipping.